One thing we do have in common is that I believe you're a farmer's daughter. You were brought up on a farm.
I was, yes, in Essex. So yeah, loved my farming days, and family is still there. So I'm actually going to actually go and see. My dad is going to be 92 on Wednesday, so I'm going to go up
Oh,
to the family farm and just say hello in the garden because we're allowed to.
how wonderful. It's incredible. But how do you think growing up on a farm shaped your future journey? Because I find that, my oldest brother still has the family farm, and I actually find that I draw upon that early part of my life, I think a lot more now. I think
Mm,
about it a lot more. I think about the discipline. I think about the work that we did on the farm, even as young
yeah,
kids, the patience with the seasons. I mean, did any of
yeah.
that, influence you in a way?
Very much so. I mean, it is that nature nurture, isn't it? And I often look back at that and I think, what is it? And I know that, spending that time, I was outdoors all the time as a youngster. I was running around. I was, running up to my dad when he was up on the tractor or the combine. I'd be
Mm,
cycling, I'd be climbing. And I know there's a lot of research out there about it, and people that achieve things on the sporting field. It's about how active they are as a young age, and I know that is so true because it's, yeah, I was always outside. And I think the other thing was the discipline, like you said. And I think seeing my dad get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go and milk the cows, and then still working all day. So it's that hard work you've got to put in. There's no cheating around you. It's just good old solid basic hard work that you get to have results. And also I think the other thing is seeing the ups and downs, because farming life is tough, and depending on whether you've had too much rain or not enough rain or
mm,
whatever it may be, it can affect so much of your life, or whether we went on holiday or whether we didn't, and all those sorts of things. I think as growing up, I knew that there was always going to be the highs and the lows, and it was about riding it out. It was about learning about it. And I was very fortunate to have learned that. I mean, I joined a club when I was 12, so I think a lot of that learning almost came before that, in those really early days.
That's really interesting. And I suppose also that sense of responsibility.
Mm,
Again, one of the things I found on the farm was that because you were given tasks and you were around machinery, around livestock and so on, there was that sense of responsibility. And you've kind of just got to look after your own situation, really. And I can
yeah,
see a massive similarity with you as a
yeah,
sports person
yeah.
moving forward.
I've never even looked at it like that, because people always say to me, would you prefer being part of a team, as in a football team, or a netball team? And I used to say, God, no, I liked that responsibility. I was almost, I mean, I had an amazing team around me, don't get me wrong, that helped me there, but I like to take charge almost, and I had never thought of it being that something that my dad always did. He was, the one that was in, even though he had people working for him, but it was his responsibility, and nobody else can make
Mm.
those mistakes and let you down almost. And I think that's what I liked, even though I had an amazing team around me. I had great coaches and support. When you're out there on that day, it's you that can either fail or there. It's nobody else,
Mm.
because so much of it is about the mind and determination and things like that. So yeah, fascinating. I never thought of it, linking it back to, yeah, just
Yeah.
seeing how strong,
And, and,
my
and I
dad was on the farm.
absolutely. And I guess, what you're saying about the fact that, well, ultimately, we all need a team of people. We all need that support, and success doesn't really happen in
Yeah,
isolation. But ultimately, you're the one at the starting line, or a musician, or in my case, I'm the one that has to walk on that stage and deliver the goods. And there's
yeah,
absolutely then nothing anybody else can do for you. And so, that mindset is absolutely
yeah.
crucial. But, was there a particular moment when you thought, right, this is what I want to do? I mean, did you find that you were quite a competitive child growing up, or did you want everything to be just so? You know, did everything have to be the best it could, if you know what I mean?
I had two older brothers, so I think the competitive side came out because of them almost, and so it was always trying to keep up with them. So I think that's part of the competitive side of it. Yeah, I think that was probably, I think that's something you are born with as well to a certain degree, because I think I always was, even from, I don't know, there was two other girls that lived on the farm, and we would always still be having singing competitions or whatever else. So I think that, that real competitive edge was something that I had in there, and still have to a certain degree. But what I find is I like to have everything in place. So I wouldn't just, even when I was younger, I wouldn't have just walked into go, yeah, I can do this or whatever else. So that wouldn't have been me. It would have been much more about, right, okay, I've got this, I've done that, I've trained here, I've done that. Okay, yes, I can do this. So it's having all the bits in place almost, rather than just bulldozing in and going, I can do this, and that wasn't the competitive side. It was having the things that helped me to deliver, which was so key.
Yeah, and I suppose that, this whole idea of patience is so important. You cannot become a great athlete, by watching someone else for 5 minutes on TV or going on to a reality show or something. It is just this hard graft, even with the immense talent that you clearly had. And that's interesting in itself, because we are bombarded with stuff at the moment where we think we can all do things, which isn't a bad mindset to be in. Yeah. But it's just knowing that, well, actually, for something to have longevity, there are no shortcuts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, when I look back to those early days of being at the club, and, and it didn't become serious until I probably left school at sort of 17, 18, when I had to make decisions. But I really loved what I did, and I don't know whether that's the same with you. I loved the training. I loved going to the club nights. I loved the group of people I was with, and and even though I joined my coach when I was 14, and my training was an hour away, sort of 3 times a week. I didn't even mind that. You know what I mean? You'd think that that would be the hard bit, but it never came into the conclusion, because I just loved that feeling of doing a hard session, of learning something new, of applying it and getting feedback and support from your coach and bits and pieces, really. So it was sort of, you have to have that passion and love in there from that very young age.
Yes, I mean, with all of that support that you had, and I mean, what was it in your mind that made you think, you know what, I might be able to make a profession out of this. I think I am good enough to compete. Was there a particular moment, or was this just always part of your thinking that, no, I will be at the Olympics, or I will be one of the foremost athletes? Or was there a key moment where you thought, actually, I think I can do this?
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I don't think the real key moment came until I was quite high up in the sport, as in I was 5th in the Olympics, and that was probably the real moment. Even though I had dreams and aspirations of watching it all, and wouldn't it be lovely, I don't think I actually really comprehended what that meant. And I don't think it was, I always talk about the reality came in probably only 4 years before Barcelona. I think in my head up to there, it was, I always wanted, I think what challenged me, and I can imagine that probably we have this in common, it was about being how good I could get at something. It was about what I could apply to myself, to understand, to see how good I could get from myself almost. Yeah. Rather than saying, right, I'm going to go and stand on the top of the rostrum, I'm going to go and do this. It wasn't any of that. It was much more about, gosh, what could if I just tried this, would that make me a longer stride pattern? Would I become more economical with my running? All those sorts of things. That was the challenge that I loved. It was much more of a personal thing than anything else.